Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for your favourite show of the week. It is the Late Mail, the one where I have a little bit of fun, but also provide you with all the essential information you need in preparation to get your teams ready for the deadline stream tomorrow, which I'll be live, and it is back to its normal Saturday morning, 9 a.m. I'll be live for 2 hours, leading you up into the deadline. I've got the card calls. It's back. It's up and about. I'm wearing a Man United shirt because the card told me prior to me pressing record on this video that Man United are going to beat Burnley and they're going to thrash Burnley. Unfortunately, because I own Dorgu, it did say that we're going to concede a goal. So, look, you got to take the positives. Hopefully, my attackers are going to be involved. And, look, I'm all in on the power of the card this week. 3 transfers. I'm playing aggressive. We're ready to go. I'm up and about. And I'm ready to dive into one of the biggest shows going, and we're making it bigger and better. And I can't do that without your help. So now's the time. Smash a like on the video. Leave me a comment with everything that you're thinking about ahead of the weekend, what you're doing with Palmer, what you're doing with Saka. And, yeah, if you haven't already smashed that subscribe button, please log in and press the button for me. With that being said, let's get into it. So, hot off the press, and look, there is so many things to get through here. Lots of press conferences have happened. Unfortunately, I didn't get to a couple of them. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that's because of the fact I'm recording this at 10:30 at night in Australian time, and I need to get to sleep because I'm actually playing football tomorrow morning. So, look, I can't be going to bed at stupid o'clock. So, unfortunately, you're going to miss out on a couple of them. From Sunderland, Ballard's out for 2 to 3 weeks. Other than that, there wasn't too much to note. Now, Chelsea, the big one here is Palmer is out. Injury needs to be watched. It's a day-by-day type of injury. Maresca was a little bit vague about it, but essentially he's going to be out probably post the international break as well, from what I could gather. He was coy on Garnacho, other than the fact that he said that Garnacho was a winger. Lavia and someone else is also potentially out injured in this game as well. Potter talked about Fernandez upgrade and how he's going to change the team dynamic and whatever. Pretty much everyone seems to be fit there as well post that thing. But look, West Ham are just in a god-awful form. I don't think that's going to make them that much better. That one signing is not going to change that team. They are basket pedestrian case in the midfield there at the moment. They're a bit like Man United, really, just so easy to play against in that position. Scott Parker for Burnley said it. He wants to do more business because, look, I don't even know who they've signed this summer, to be honest with you. But their team looks weak. They look like a 20th place team. Obviously, he praised United, probably trying to make sure that they don't come out too firing. And he did say, he talked about whether it was a good time or a bad time to play him. I think it's a bad time to play him because Man United had come out and put in a performance this weekend, and I think that they probably will. Leeds off there, Daniel Farke, apparently Okafor picked up a knock in the EFL Cup, so he might not be available. Dominic Calvert-Lewin obviously played 40 minutes. He talked about his improved in fitness. And look, Andy from Let's Talk FPL is probably already lining up the transfer to bring Dominic Calvert-Lewin into his team because we all know how much he loves him. Sorry, Andy, but it had to be said. No offense there. Liverpool, no new injury issues. Bradley has had more training, so I would take that as potentially he's in line to potentially start at right back against Arsenal, which would make a bit of sense rather than put someone there that's not in position. McAllister's been training as well, and Virgil seems to be okay. He obviously talked about the test with Arsenal as well, but that's neither here nor relevant in comparison to your FPL players. Brian Rooter could be available, so all those people that picked the review and Solio picks, you guys could be lucky and he might be available. But look, he then talked about Tismiskas being ahead of Kostalis after the EFL Cup, because obviously he scored a couple of goals there. Realistically, they've got Welbeck, they've got him, they've got so many other players, Brighton. I think that if Rooter could be available, he probably, if he is going to be available, he's probably starting on the bench based off that alone. So on to Manchester United and Amrin, this was a weird presser. He basically said, sometimes I hate my players, sometimes I love them, sometimes I want to quit, etc., etc. It was a bizarre press conference. It was very short, but he also talked about Mainu because that seems to be the big point. Apparently he's put it out to the press or whatever that he wants to go out on loan, but Amrin wants him to stay. Look, all I can say is that Mainu is definitely Manchester United's best midfielder. Why Amrin's not playing, I've got no idea. Why he then said that he's competing with Bruno, maybe that's to spur Mainu on. Mainu's then come out and said this. I don't know what's going on, even other than the fact that if Mainu's not starting against Burnley, there's something wrong there. So, look, hopefully he is. Let's go with that. Lots of updates from Arsenal. So Arteta confirmed that Saka is out, which is obviously we knew that kind of earlier in the week. Odegaard is pushing to feature. Norgard and White is a watch and see, so that looks good for Timber and stuff like that, for all those people that transferred him in, chasing points that he's not going to be getting against Liverpool. Well done. Havertz is also out injured. He praised Eze and basically didn't give too much away whether he'd be starting, but I'd suggest with all the other injuries that Eze is probably going to walk straight into that lineup. He also said that Martinelli is still important, probably to make him feel better out of the fact that all these players are being signed in pretty much his position. Pep Guardiola backed Trafford after the mistake, obviously, against Spurs last weekend. He said he was happy with his squad. He was coy on transfers, didn't really want to comment on them until after the window closes on Monday. Will City sign anyone else? I'd suggest probably not based off that, but there's probably going to be players leave, I would suggest, because I still think that squad's massively too big. Aït-Nouri's fit. So that's the key thing. So all those people that transferred him out earlier in the week, that's unfortunate because it does look like he's going to be fit. However, I didn't actually read anything about Guardiola in there. So Guardiola, I always get his name wrong. But yeah, I don't know about him, so we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, who knows? Pep Roulette, it's happening. I bet you Núñez and Foden start this week. That's my hot take on Pep. How was Coy on Isaac yet again? I mean, I would be shocked if Isaac doesn't leave for Liverpool. Now, this is all I'll say on it. I think that they're working on a bloke called... I thought when I read that name, I just think it's Voldemort. I don't know why, but it's Walter Maid, I'm assuming. I don't really know, but I just thought it looked like Voldemort, and I don't know why. When I looked at him, I don't even know why I'm thinking that. It's like, yeah, I'm wearing glasses. I think I'm Harry Potter. I don't know. Anyways, Joelinton is out. Tonali's also pushing to be fit. Shah's fine. Obviously, Gordon is suspended. But yeah, obviously, he says that they're still working on transfers. I would expect Newcastle probably make a few more signings before Monday. And look, we'll get onto that in a second when we talk about Brentford. Everton, Moyes was hopeful on Mikalenko. Obviously, he came back in the EFL Cup and he's hoping he's going to be fit. He had lots of praise for Grealish as well. Grealish is perfectly fine. I just put that there so I could save a bit of space on the slide. Then, obviously, Wissa is unavailable for Brentford yet again. And... this was one of the funniest quotes I read in all the press conferences today. Keith Andrews basically said, the weird and wonderful things can happen in the next few days. Who knows what that means? It's basically paper talk for anything can happen. And that's exactly right. While the transfer window is open, anything can happen. And we've got to be aware of that. And potentially, Wissa could... he still seems to think that Wissa's staying at Brentford. I still think Wissa's going to Newcastle. We will have to wait and see. But if Isaac goes to Liverpool, you would suggest that Newcastle will probably buy two forwards rather than just Walter Maid, because obviously they've still lost Callum Wilson earlier in the summer and he hasn't been replaced. So that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I can see that happening. Then on to Crystal Palace. Now, Glasgow was quite happy. Obviously, they got through to the Europa Conference League group stage overnight with a 0-0 draw. So their defence has actually kept like 3 clean sheets in 4 games to start the season. So that's really good and promising if you've got any of their defenders. Hughes could be okay, and he's hoping that he is. Richards had an ankle and needs to be monitored in the lead up to that, so a few people might be affected by that, but I'd imagine he's going to be fine. Kamada's also fit, and Pino has just signed for Crystal Palace as well, and he's a winger, in case anyone was wondering. Then onto the Wolves one. Pereira had praise for Jorgen Strand-Larsen, but then went on to say that he had a small injury and is hopeful that he'll be available on the weekend. So, look, if he's under transfer speculation and he's got a small little bit of injury, that is just cause for he might not be playing on the weekend. Now, I'm just speculating. That's manager talk, and quite often they talk vaguely. But if I was to read through the lines, that's what I'd suggest. Bournemouth, Cook and United are going to be missing. Arajo's obviously suspended after that red card, and everyone else is available. That includes Justin Kluivert. So just keep that in mind. He is available to play, and he obviously played in the EFL Cup midweek as well against Brentford. On to Aston Villa. Emery says that Villa are very busy in the market and coy on the return of Asensio, and he basically didn't say much about injuries other than the fact that they're going to monitor after training this week, and that's pretty much it. And at Fulham, Silva is very unhappy with Fulham's window. They've only made the one signing, and really he's basically called it a bit of a failure. I didn't catch any of the info on that. Obviously, I did not hear from Spurs or Forest because of the time of the presses, so I'm recording this. Frank's probably talking right at the moment, but I'm not going to sit there and edit this to add it in. Unfortunately, I would imagine they've delayed it so they could announce Javi Simons signing for Tottenham. So that could affect Johnson, Kudus, Richarlison, Solanke's minutes. That's something to monitor. But yeah, obviously keep your eye out for that. And Forest, I'm imagining everyone's going to be fine. They haven't played midweek, so you'd think they'd be right to go. So on to defensive moves and double-ups. And look, will the double Spurs defence hold for the 3rd week in a row? that is the big question. Obviously, back-to-back clean sheets. Who would have expected that based on what we saw last year? Frank has literally gone in and revolutionised how they defend, because last season they could barely keep a clean sheet. So look, I've got to sit there and own up and say I might have got that wrong. But the truth is really in the pudding. I'm still playing even Valenson in my team this week, and I don't know if I'd want to be doubling up on Spurs defence against Bournemouth. Bournemouth are one of those teams that can get you, and particularly with their attacking assets, I think they'll be pretty good, even away at Spurs. Which asset's best? Now, I quite like Romero, just because of the fact that I think he's got more chance of getting those DC points. So for me, I like him better than Van de Ven and Pedro Porro. Now, if you ask me to compare Pedro Porro and Van de Ven, I'd probably go with Pedro Porro. But you are having to cough up an extra $1 million. Do you need a 6 million defender, or are there better options? Now, this is getting difficult, because most of the good 6 million ones are no longer 6 million. They're 6.1. So like Cucurella is probably my favorite one. 6.1, you're going to have to find that 0.1 if you start off with exactly 100 mil, which will then require 2 moves. So I think it's probably better to go for some of the 5.5s and below. There are lots of good 5.5s and below that in reality you can probably get away with not having any of those 6s. Should you play your Liverpool Arsenal defenders or sell them? Well, I'd recommend, in the case of Liverpool, I wouldn't sell them. I'd just bench them for the week and then play them from game week 4 when they've got Burnley at home, away, which makes a lot more sense to me. Or you could sell Arsenal ones. I don't understand why so many people bought Arsenal defenders this week. It makes no sense to me. Their run of fixtures is horrible. Like, yes, they're a good defense, but when you're playing really good attacks, chances are you're going to concede. So for that reason, I just don't really know if I like them at all. And I think I'd actually probably sell an Arsenal defender if I had them myself. Will the double Forest defence finally play off? Well, I damn well hope so. The stats say that West Ham don't score goals at Nottingham Forest. Now, the fact I've been saying that all week probably means that they will. But if there's a week where it should come in, it should come in this week, and I'm definitely hoping so as well. Now, which United defender versus Burnley? If you want my honest opinion on this, the one that's guaranteed to start and play the 90 minutes is Lenny Yoro. He didn't play in the EFL Cup. He had a rest, which makes sense because he's young, and he'll be definitely fit and available and playing on Saturday tomorrow at 3 p.m. That's the one I would pick if I was on a free hit. That is the one I would be looking to buy for the Burnley fixture. However, as I said, the card did say that Man United were conceding, so we'll see if it's right in that tomorrow when that game occurs. So where to from Saka and Palmer? And look, this is the big question. I obviously have both of them, so I literally had to make moves, or else I would have had 20.5 million in case it's actually 20.4 because Saka's already dropped in price. And by tomorrow morning, I dare say Cole Palmer's going to have dropped in price as well. So a lot of people will be selling tonight to make sure they don't lose that 0.1 in team value. So what are the options? So Semenyo continues to do the business. Do you need him? The answer is no, you don't need him. And he's obviously risen to 7.2. He's highly likely to rise to 7.3 very shortly as well. I just think there are better options other than Semenyo that do something similar that probably have better fixture runs. Like even the Spurs assets, I would argue, have better fixture runs than Semenyo and cost less. So for that reason, I think I prefer them. So I don't think you need him, but he's a good option moving forward. The best option at 6.5 million and below. I said all summer long that Ismaila Sarr was my favourite 6.5 million midfielder. Now, lots of people, including me, were a little bit scarred towards the end of last year when we went him over Eze, and Eze popped off more than Sarr. That's obviously problematic. But again, I think it's okay, and I think he's going to be great. His record against Aston Villa is amazing, and then the fixtures following that for Crystal Palace are also amazing. So there's no reason to panic or think that he's not going to be good. So for that reason, I quite like him. Do you need a Spurs mid with their great run of fixtures? Now, this one is interesting. Now, I'm not going with a Spurs midfielder myself this week. I've gone with a Man United one double up, actually, to target the Burnley fixture because I just have a feeling that they're going to come out and smack them. Maybe I'm biased. People say I'm biased. I'm not because I think we're pretty rubbish in general, but I think that Burnley are crap and we will smash them. So that's all I'll say about it. We'll see if we're right. The card reckons I'm right, so there we go. That's all I need to worry about. But yeah, from next week onwards, I will be looking to bring a Spurs asset in. I'm going to hold my hand up and say I'm going to be doing it. Probably over the international break, I'll make a move for a Spurs midfielder, Probably even a defender and a hit as well. So, look, that's something I'm going to be doing. Should you hold Rodgers or sell? Because Villa looks stale. And look, Emery said it himself, they need reinforcements. They are working hard in the window. They need attackers to help make that team function and give Watkins some service for starters. So, I don't know. Should you sell him? I don't have him. So, for me, it's not really a thing. Let's just ask the card. Should you sell Rodgers? Yes or no? Yes. No. All right, the card reckons you shouldn't sell him. So there you go. If you're holding Rodgers, hold him. The card agrees with you. Damsgaard versus Dango. Now, that comes up in the cards calls later. And look, Damsgaard costs 0.1 million less. And if you've lost 0.1, it's a good way of getting that 0.1 back by buying Damsgaard instead of Dango. Now, is that a smart move? I'm not sure. I think realistically, Dango is going to be really good. I think we'll see the high likelihood that he's going to have a lot more shots. He's going to be very attacking, and you don't have to worry about him getting benched at Brentford because that's why he's moved, right? Like they've spent this money on him to play him. I just think Dango is going to be better than Damsgaard, but I think Damsgaard might return more regularly, but Dango will have those really high ceiling scores. So that's what I'd say about that. Do you need a United or Newcastle asset this game week in the midfield or attack? Now, you don't, but the fixtures they've got are amazing. Newcastle obviously travel away to Leeds. Man United obviously welcome Burnley at home. Both teams in desperate need of a win. Neither of these two teams have won in the Premier League yet this year. Newcastle desperately unlucky on Monday and did fairly well at Villa and probably should have won that game there. But they both need wins. So for that reason, I think that potentially you do want coverage because they are going to want to be scoring goals. And I think that means bad news for Leeds and Burnley this particular game week. So, which forward to buy? And look, lots of people like me have sold Jared Bowen, might be selling Evan Linson, might be selling Jorgen Strand Larsen because of the fact that apparently according to Prairie, he's got a small little injury and it's under transfer speculation. Look, which one's the best one? Now, this week, I think it's either Chris Wood or Haaland are the best options to buy. Like, Haaland has that Brighton fixture. Pep's not going to be happy with the fact they lost in game week 2. I think they'll come out firing. Chris Wood has West Ham at home. That is definitely the juiciest fixture on paper for any of these strikers this week. Now, Hugo Ekitike looks great from game week 4, but I wouldn't be playing him against Arsenal. Arsenal do, remember, have the stingiest defence in the league. Richarlison, obviously, what also concerns me of him and João Pedro in particular, and Chris Wood, they go away for the international break and they go to the other side of the world, which means that in game week 4, when arguably most of them actually have pretty good fixtures outside of Chris Wood, there's high likelihood they'll start on the bench because of that travel factor. So that's what puts me off them per se. Ollie Watkins, I obviously own, and people are probably selling more than buying. But the front of fixtures for Villa coming up is incredible. Like there's so many reasons to get excited about him. I think he's great and getting overlooked. And then there's Mateta. Like Mateta should be good value as well, particularly with the run of fixtures that Crystal Palace have coming up. Outside of Liverpool, that even Aston Villa away is not that bad. I think that he's also a really worthy shout. And I wouldn't be overly concerned about playing him this week either. So, Cunha versus Mbeumo, and this is an interesting one because most people that are looking at Man United assets have already got Bruno Fernandes, right? They've already got Bruno Fernandes. Now, they're both owned by similar amounts of people. Cunha obviously started off with lower ownership, has gone up in price this week because a lot of people have gone there instead of Brian Mbeumo. However, Mbeumo scored against Grimsby in that horrendous night, and it was a good goal. So, he's actually scored this season, whereas Cunha hasn't. Both of them missed a penalty, so we can guarantee that they're not going to be on penalties this weekend if there is a penalty. You would expect that 100% to be Bruno Fernandes because Šeško took the last outfield penalty, so there's no way he's taking it either. So, yeah, there's not much to split between them. I think, realistically, they can both massively haul this week. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Also, the card is going to be picking between them later, but I think that you can't go wrong with either of them. And remember last season, Bruno, Mbeumo, Cunha all beat up and bullied the promoted teams last year. This is a promoted team. These are the teams that they absolutely bullied and dominated last year. There's no reason to think that that won't continue at Old Trafford on Saturday at 3 p.m. So the best Palmer replacements, and look, these are my two favourite. I'll admit, Ismail Assar, as I said, is my favourite 6.5 million midfielder in the game. I think that he is brilliant. I think he's going to probably top score from that bracket. Jack Grealish could push him close, I'm going to be honest, but I think that Ismail Assar is definitely the best there. Dango, though, is like untapped raw potential. Now, he is still quite raw. He's going to develop. But the fixture this week against Sunderland away is just really tempting. So if you wanted to save that extra 0.5, these two are the ones that I'd be moving to for Saka or Palmer. I've obviously bought in Sa myself, but there's every reason to think that Dango is just as good an option. And for that reason, I think like the fixtures for both of them over the next six weeks are all pretty good. As I said, other than that Liverpool game for Crystal Palace and that Man City game for Brentford, the rest all look pretty tasty on paper. So I think there's going to be lots of returns there for the both of them. And look, I might even buy Dango as well over the coming weeks moving forward. So onto my team and how it looks for Game Week 3. Remember, I have made 3 transfers as identified in my team selection video out earlier today. I've obviously got 100 million squad value. Sa, Cunha and Haaland are the ones that are coming. I've obviously moved the vice captaincy off Bruno because remember in the video earlier today, the card said that Haaland was a better captain than Bruno. I'm going to sit there and work out whether it's better on the deadline stream tomorrow to go with Haaland or Cunha. We'll leave that up to the card as well. But at the moment, I'm quite tempted to go with Cunha. I'm quite excited about him. I think he'll be great. And look, the team, the biggest question and quandary I've got, and the reason why I don't do bench rankings is because of the fact that I struggle with them myself. And I can't sit there and give good advice when normally I get it wrong. So at the moment, I've got Reindeers on the bench again this week. I am starting Cody Gakpo, but that fixture, and lots of people are going to sit there and say, oh, you could bench Sa, you could bench Van Linson, you could bench Gakpo, or you could bench Reindeers. It's going to be one of those 4, let's be honest, that gets benched. In fact, it's not going to be Sa. I'm definitely going to be playing Sa. So it's one of either Van Linson, Gakpo, and Reindeers. Obviously, the card reckons Man United conceding, but they're going to flog them. So hopefully Dolgo scores and concedes 1 goal. That'd be nice. And hopefully the defence and those green fixtures finally pay off for me and I get a green arrow at the 3rd time of asking. I think the bench outside of the midfielder, that Reindeers, is pretty easily decided this week in my own team. So one of my hot takes for Game Week 3, it's worth taking a hit with the injuries this weekend to avoid using a chip. That is my number 1 rule this week. If you can take a -4 or a -8 even, don't use a chip. Don't use your free hit. Don't use your wild card. It's better off taking a hit. I'm taking a hit this week so I can play a good team. I think that my team can cover that -4 hit this week as well. And I'm quite happy with the way it's looking. Don't be buying Arsenal defenders. I know that they've been returning. I know that Jurriën Timber got 24 points. I know that Carol Fury has got a goal and an assist in his first 2 game weeks. But the fixtures coming up are horrible. There's no way they're keeping clean sheets. And that is generally the bread and butter of Arsenal defenders. They don't get DC contributions. So don't buy them. That's my one advice on that. Remaining patient is a hard way to play. And I don't know if it's the right way to play. And it's not how I play. Be brave and go with your gut feels. This week I was like, I want to get these players in. And I'd already looked at it. And then when I sat there and I was like, let's just toss the card up and see if the card agrees. And when the card agreed, I was like, let's just make the moves, baby. And luckily enough, none of my players got injured because I bought them all in before they played midweek. And thankfully, they're all ready and good to go. 4.5 million defenders that acquired DC points, I think are actually probably the way to go. Rather than the attacking ones. I really do wish that at the start of the season I'd gone with Euro instead of old mate Dorgu. I wish that I'd gone instead of De Kuiper, Sensei, however you say his name, from Bournemouth. I just wish that I'd done those moves instead of gone for the attacking ones. The attacking ones haven't even looked attacking. De Kuiper has been not good at all, to be honest. If I was wildcarding, I'd definitely be moving them out for probably DC contributors at 4.5. Be aware of assets moving clubs. Just be aware. If there's rumours you hear before the deadline, just don't buy into them. Just don't buy into them. There's just so many reasons why not to buy into it. And also the clubs that are buying players as well. So, for example, Chelsea are about to buy Garnacho from Man United, right? Who does that impact? Pedro Neto, probably, because where does Garnacho play? On the left. These things you have to monitor and look for and potentially avoid buying certain players or wait to see how they pan out when these other new ones come in and see who gets the minutes, etc., etc. Is it going to be a rotation policy? Is it going to be Maresca roulette? These things you do all have to consider. Yeah, just consider that. Don't buy players that are under transfer speculation. Don't sell them. Just hold and just hope for the best. Man United are smacking Burnley. Why? Because the card said so and I said so. I'm telling you right now, it might not be 4-0 anymore because the card reckons that they're going to concede. So I'm going to go 5-1. I reckon Man United beat them by 4 goals. And I reckon all those midfielders, all those assets, the people are sitting there going, which one do I buy? I reckon they all return in a nice given way. Now, on to the favourite part, and this is where we get to your card calls. Now, last week, the card, I had to adjust this actually because it did actually get one of those ones correct that I thought was correct. It was actually a draw. So, actually revised. We had 4 correct. Sorry, that should be game week 2, not game week 1. In game week 2, we had 4 correct, 2 draws, and 2 wrong. The wrong one was obviously Cole Palmer because he didn't play. And the other one was a 4 points difference between old mate Sells and Dubravka. The season calls now combined with game week 1 and game week 2. Remember, in game week 1, it got none wrong. It got 2 draws and 6 right. So it's now on for the season. 10 correct calls, 4 draws and 2 wrong. Let's see what it goes with today. And yeah, let's go. Remember, this side facing up is the player that's on the left. This side facing up is the player on the right. And starting with Pedro Porro versus Milinkovic, it's gone with Pedro Porro. Mbeumo versus Cunha. It's gone with Cunha, man. The card loves Cunha, I'm telling you. Johnson versus Kudos. O'Dango versus Damsgaard. Dango. Bruno Fernandes captain versus Cunha captain. Oh my God, the card loves Cunha, man. I can tell you this card is obsessed with Mateus Cunha. Cunha captain, baby. Locked in right there. João Pedro versus Wood. João Pedro. Oh, that's an interesting call. Truffert versus Senesi. And Barnes versus Alanga. And it's gone with Barnes. Now, a lot of people are going to ask, because obviously I did the Bruno Fernandes versus Haaland captaincy yesterday. We're just going to quickly do Haaland versus Cunha captaincy as well. It's gone with Cunha captaincy, baby. I can't believe it. The card has gone completely rogue. So there we go. Your live calls. Cunha is the best captain this week for game week 3 from all the calls that I've done. Lock it in. It's ready to go. Oh, man, I love this section of the video. This is actually my favorite part of making content for FPL every single week. I can't believe I should have done this last year. It's definitely my favorite part. So that brings us to the end of the 3rd edition of the Late Mail for this season. And look, I've had fun making it, and hopefully you've had fun watching it. Leave me a comment with your thinking. Is the card going to be on another tear this week, or is this the week where it all comes crashing down? Good luck with your moves. Hopefully you've managed to dodge the Palmer and Saka bullets, or if you've got them, maybe you let me know what you're doing with those players. Are you holding them until after the international break, or are you moving them on? Remember, I'll be live tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the deadline stream. I hope to see you there. Thank you very much again for watching my content this week. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and hopefully that's given you a complete guide with a little bit of fun and humor for game week 3. I've been FPL D-Unit. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe if you haven't already before you leave, and I'll see you tomorrow on the deadline stream.